first it'd be great to hear about The Other Side of Perfect, just in general, like if you want to give a little synopsis for the readers at home, and then maybe talk a little about kind of how you came to write the story and kind of what your process toward the road to publication was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, The Other Side of Perfect, which I have right here, is about a teenage ballerina. She's very talented. She's on the professional track. Her whole life is ballet, but then she breaks her leg, and it's a career-ending injury, which means that like she breaks it in such a way that she can't be on point anymore, which is very important for a ballet career. So she's just very lost. She has to go back to like regular high school instead of going for half days and then going to her ballet school. And she's roped into doing the musical by her one and only friend at high school, and meets different friends, a cute love interest, and over the course of that, just kind of tries to heal after her dreams are shattered, and also begin sort of seeing some of the uglier parts of her former dream. So ballet was this beautiful, sort of perfect thing to her. She's devastated that she lost it, but now that she's outside of the ballet world, she kind of starts to see some of the longstanding racism that has been a part of the ballet industry for forever, and that's been part of her for her schooling as well. So she, at the same time as she's learning to deal with the fact that she's not going to be a professional ballet dancer, she's also having to re-examine her dream, and sort of wonders like if she ever should have loved it that much in the first place if it has all these issues. So that's the basic synopsis of The Other Side of Perfect. It also has a lot of high school musical theater shenanigans in it, so it's not like a heavy feeling read, even though it deals with some serious topics. And in terms of publication, so this is actually the first book that I ever finished. I've started so many and just petered out. Yeah. And I was just really determined this time to do it. I started it in, I think, 2017. So, and I was like, I have to just draw so closely on like my own like passions and experiences. So like dance, musical theater, all these things that I just were so like close to my heart, I guess, that's kind of what kept me going and made it possible for me to finish. So I finished a first draft pretty quickly in a matter of a few months. I started querying way too early because I was like, oh, I did it. Like I finished it. This is it. But then was lucky enough to get some great feedback from agents that were kind of saying like, your main character kind of deals with things too easily. Like this is like, and that made a lot of sense to me because as I was writing it, I was like, this is such a terrible thing to have happen to someone. I felt bad. And I was like, I just want her to like get through it really well without too much pain. But then I was realizing like, yeah, it's not a very compelling story that way. And also it's not very honest. So I remember just really thinking like, what would this feel like? And that's when sort of it began to develop a bit more and I think become, just a better story. And then I was lucky enough to connect with my amazing agent, Alexandra Levick, who has a personal connection to the story. Like she went through something similar to what my main character goes through. So we worked together then, revising as well. And it was just like, it was so wonderful to be able to work with her to make the story even that much richer. And then, yeah, I'm lucky enough to connect with Alexandra Hightower, my amazing editor, who just had such thoughtful feedback as well. And so I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned from the publishing journey is just how much it is like a collaboration between author, agent, and editor, and that it's books just benefit so much from that back and forth. And so that's how The Other Side of Perfect came to be.
All right. That's awesome. I love hearing kind of the origin story of books, and kind of I think everybody's road to publication is different. So I mean,
right.
a tight turn. I mean, I can't believe you started it in 2017 and it is already out in the world. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, it's funny. It like seems like a long time when it's like, oh my gosh, like you finish it and then it's like, 4 years seems like a long time, but in publishing it's not at all. So yeah, it's like a short time in the publishing world. Um, but I also wondered, so for you, I mean, so you've written five YA contemporaries, and I think like you worked with the same editor and agent for all five of them, right? Um, so I guess for you, like how different is it now from your first book, like your debut, to now? Like how different is the kind of publication process?
Um, you know, I must I gotta reach my mind back, back through time. I think we definitely got into a really good rhythm. And so, yeah, like a good one, not to say that it became repetitive. It actually, I think, became kind of streamlined. And what was, I think, kind of unique about these first five books and what I'm now kind of dealing with afterward is that I was in school kind of the whole time
Mm,
that I was publishing. So I wrote my first book, and why partially I was so impressed with kind of the tight turnaround on your journey is that I started mine when I was in high school, my first book,
wow,
which
it's awesome.
and so, but it came out kind of 8 years later, so it was a while. Like I worked on it in high school, worked on it in college, and it wasn't until I was in graduate school that it was published. But once that was published, each next book kind of came out each subsequent year, so I got into kind of a
Wow.
tight
Yeah.
schedule. But it became like a really kind of nice built-in part of my graduate experience. And so I had kind of my graduate research happening in the one track, and then I had my publishing, business stuff happening kind of alongside that. And so it sort of became like, oh, it's winter, it's copy editing season. Like it became like a thing that I came to really like anticipate, and it really kind of helped me through my PhD research, which was difficult. So yeah, now that I'm done with school, it sort of feels it feels different. It's like I'm just kind of out there trying to create and to figure out what's next. So
Right. That's awesome. That is something I was curious about too. Like when I read in your bio that you were going for your PhD in cell biology, that I had sort of wondered, like, does the writing and the school, do they sort of complement each other? Are they ever like at odds? But that's so it sounds like the books and the writing sort of helped you through like the graduate school experience.
yeah, it was nice to spend all day doing one thing in the lab, which was very like analytical and definitely creative, but in a different sort of way. And then to come home and do something completely different and sort of engage with fiction and with that type of creativity.
Yeah, that's
Kind of.
awesome.
Now you also did a PhD, and so I'm very interested in what was that process like, and were you working on that when you were also working on this book?
No, so it's funny because I mean my PhD was so much more related to like young adult lit than yours was, but I was not writing fiction at the time at all. But I basically went to graduate school for English, but I specialized in children's literature. So I was like reading and studying children's books. I mostly studied books for younger kids than YA, but I mean I read a lot of YA. Me and uh, um, a bunch of my grad school friends had like a YA book club that we would have every summer. So I feel like I mean, it was probably like setting the groundwork for later writing of YA novel because I think I had read so much YA that it's, I fell in love with it then. And I just spent, I think, many years reading it and writing about it before I actually ever tried writing one myself. But I do think it sort of set me up to like be able to finish that book finally because I'd read so much before. But yeah, it was kind of separate things. I didn't start writing The Other Side of Perfect until right after I graduated from grad school. And I think it was because I finished the dissertation and I was used to having like a big project to work on, and I didn't anymore, but I was really burnt out of research writing and all that. So I decided I wanted a big project, but to try fiction. So yeah, they were very, very separate, but definitely the grad school, I'm sure, helped prepare me to write.
Nice. I am very curious. You mentioned that you have some common experiences with the protagonist of The Other Side of Perfect, Alina. And so, doing ballet, doing theater, breaking your leg also, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did those experiences kind of inform your writing of the story?
Yeah, so they informed them a lot. I basically like just took the most sort of the most dramatic moment of my life up until like that point, which is breaking my leg. I was like, oh, that was very dramatic, but I kind of thought of it in terms of like it's something I could write about. But then I was thinking, oh, and I danced growing up, and that was a big part of my life. And I remember when I did have the injury, it was right after college, and I remember thinking like I was so glad that it had happened then and not when I was a teenager, because I was thinking like I would have missed out on so many dance recitals and like the high school musicals, and it would have been so devastating. And then I thought like, well, it would have been even more devastating if I had been like on the professional track. If this was like, if I was good enough to like do it professionally and this is my dream, and then I had that injury, as a teenager, that would be, awful. And so I kind of just took a lot of what I had experienced and just kind of heightened it a bit. And I think that helped me keep going when I got stuck, because I could just kind of think back to like, well, like how would I have felt if I would have lost this, really important part of my life back then. And then the musical parts just came in because I loved being in my high school musicals. They were like the definite highlight of high school for me. So I was like, that would be a great way to kind of get her back into the world. Like this can be something that she does to kind of keep the plot moving forward, and also kind of break her out of her sort of deep like sadness that she was in, and sort of give her a new way to dance, new friends, new love interest, etc. So yeah, I kind of just I really just thought back to those times a lot, and that definitely helped me through.
Nice. I am a huge Singing in the Rain fan, so I was very
Oh,
excited.
good.
School musical was Singing in the Rain. And was that one of the ones you did in school, or was there other favorites?
No, unfortunately. My favorite one that we did in school was 42nd Street, because I loved tap. Tap was my favorite. And we did it my freshman year. And I remember I was just so excited because it's like, I had a really big school and lots of people tried out for the musical. So like not a lot of freshmen would get in, but like because I could tap dance, like I got in, and that was just the best thing ever. So yeah, but not Singing in the Rain, unfortunately.
I didn't know, is there a high school like stage production of it? And if so, I would love to
There
see that.
is, because I've watched it on YouTube for research. I was like, how did they do this scene? So yes, there are high school productions of Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, I went to a very small high school. So kind of the opposite. I went to a really tiny school that had a drama club, but not anything like a drama program like I've heard about. So I'm very, I love like when theater kind of plays into YA. I really like the intersection of high school theater and YA.
Yeah, well, because so Foolish Hearts had like the theater aspect of it, which I mean, I love that, but because of the theater aspect, and also I feel like love interest in that, just like the very sweet like cinnamon roll love interests are always my favorite. So, but I remember when I was like querying The Other Side of Perfect, I used like Foolish Hearts as a comp because
Oh,
of the connections there. Um,
the naming process is very, very important to me. Like I really have to get everything set when I'm going to start. I have to have all my names laid out. Are you similar? Or is
no,
it
that's very cool. Yeah, no, I feel like names, I'll just be like, okay, this one works. Or I'll have like a certain associations in my head for like different names because of from people I've known like throughout the years. And I feel like most of the names I use are like not people I've known, but like friends of friends. So I've like heard the name a lot. They'd be like talk about like, well, my friend Colleen was doing this, and I'd just be like, yeah, I like that name, and I've heard it, but I don't know a Colleen. So it just seems to fit. But yeah, they kind of just come up as I go, I think. And sometimes they just change also. But it's still fun. I like coming up with the names. But I like that you have that, like, so when you pick them out, do you pick them for like their meanings or just the way they sound? Or
It's
nothing
very
like
like
that?
instinct based is all I can say. It's like
Yeah.
you know when it's not the right one, I feel like. And I've even
Yeah.
gotten into it, especially the protagonist and the love interest. I feel like those have to be like
Yes.
set.
They have
Right.
to match. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and it's it's something you're gonna be using those a lot. So yes,
Yes.
I've even gotten into projects and then switched the protagonist name. So I'm like, it's not the right feel.
Right.
But yeah, it's one of my favorite parts. But as I've gone on and I've used so many, I'm constantly like
Right.
thinking,
You're running out.
yeah, I'm gonna reuse eventually. I'm sure I'll probably start
Right.
recycling some very minor characters into
Yes.
more prominent positions. But in terms of naming, I will say something that I've struggled with all 3 out of 5 books, I'll say, is coming up with a title. And so I'm very curious. Was The Other Side of Perfect, was it your title from the start, or was it something that came out of revision or through your publisher, or how did that go?
Yeah. So I agree. Titles are really hard, and I didn't have a title for my book until like I had to have one when I was querying. But I had, I didn't know The Other Side of Perfect is the third title that the book has had. It had a different title when I was querying, and then a different title when it was on submission. And The Other Side of Perfect came out of like just a brainstorming session that me and my agent and editor had. Right before we announced the deal, because we knew we were looking for a different title, but just like, so we went through so many different ones, and it was really fun because I think also with the book like The Other Side of Perfect, we like it's about dance, it's about theater, but we didn't want like a title that was too dance based or theater based, because we didn't want it to feel like too niche, because we felt like there's other things going on in the book. And we finally settled on The Other Side of Perfect, which is actually one of my agents' contributions to our brainstorming session. And we all loved it because we think that like it just kind of captures Alina's emotional journey, I think, where she goes from viewing ballet as this like perfect, beautiful thing that now she's lost. But now that she has the time away from it, and she starts to realize the uglier parts of it, she kind of gets beyond the notion that like anything is perfect, like that, ballet's not perfect, people aren't perfect, she's definitely not perfect. And she realizes like, okay, but I can still have a relationship with these things that aren't, perfect. So like I can work to make ballet better, and I can hold on to the parts that I really love, and I can name and recognize and try to fix the parts that aren't, that um, are troubling. And I think, yeah, so much of her journey is just kind of getting beyond that notion that something or someone can be perfect, and realizing there's, you know, that like life and ballet and people are so much more complicated than that, but that she can still, exist in that world where things are much more complicated. So yeah, we love that it kind of encapsulated her emotional journey, rather than just like a title that would convey, this is a dance book or this is a theater book.